my beautiful student midwives and mamas. So today I have what is a bit of an exciting video and a bit of a different one. I've said on this channel one of my absolute passions is for education. I love to educate people and I love to learn. So today I'm going to be talking about probably one of the things that gave you the most anxiety as a student midwife, and that is vaginal exams. So what I'm going to go through is some of my tips and tricks, how I've learned. I'm going to go through some of the anatomy and explain what we look for, as well as give you some exercises you can do at home to practice. So it's definitely going to be a fun one. So before I start, I really do want a disclaimer that I am newly registered. A lot of you know that. I have just completed my training. So what I say you really want to take with a grain of salt. I don't want to come across like I know everything. I definitely don't. I am just at the beginning of my journey. What I think is useful though is to hear from someone who has just completed their training, so that I think what I offer is a really unique perspective of just being there. So yes, so I just want to say there might be some things I say that are incorrect, and there might be different hospitals that do different practices. Your university might also teach you different ways to do things. So I think all excellent midwives should take everything they read and hear with a grain of salt and question everything. So that's even with my videos and even how I teach. So I really want you to go off as midwives, yeah, who really question everything, engage, and really want to learn from multiple sources so you can get a well-rounded view. So I just want you to take that into account. When watching this video, I also have a lot more educational videos planned, especially now that I'm registered and feel like, well, if I got my registration, I'm at least doing something right. So I hope you enjoy it. Let me know if you have any questions or anything you would like me to explain or give my perspective on. So first I want to address why we do vaginal exams, or as I'll call them, VEs for short, or I think in America they're called pelvic exams. So why we do them, and I really want you guys to think about if they're necessary or not. So the most common reason we do them is to assess progress in labour. But also antenatally, I want you to consider that there are also many other ways to assess a woman's progress in labour. These are things like her behaviours, as it's getting closer, transition. As you're around more women, transition is very recognisable. Women will often take off their clothes, want to go home, they get a lot more overwhelmed and they require a bit more support during this time. But that's when I generally get excited, because I know a baby is coming soon. Another sign is that women can throw up just before giving birth. That's just the digestive system reacting to what's going on, as well as this line that darkens from the top of the buttocks upwards, and it gets longer the more dilated a woman is. So have a look out for that. Do some research on your own, because I don't want this video to be super long going into that. But yes, there's definitely other ways. What I also want to say is really how accurate are vaginal exams. I myself firsthand have seen a midwife do an exam where the woman was 6 centimeters. As her fingers came out, so did the baby. A woman can be 4 centimeters for 10 hours and all of a sudden go to 10. I think sometimes you have to be careful because they can dishearten women, and there can be a lot of pressure on vaginal exams. So I just really want you to take this into account. Obviously with hospital-based midwifery, is it an essential part, and it's what we use. It's in a lot of protocol, but I want you to be critical about it and really think about it, because obviously as midwives we are promoting birth as a normal physiological event. So I really want you to consider that as well. So I'm not necessarily going to go into the exact technique of doing this, because I think you can find it in a lot of videos, textbooks, and you will learn it at university. What more I'm going to go into is just explaining what's inside, because once I kind of visualize it like this, this is how I got it. With me, VEs, I didn't get them at all, and then one day I got them. It wasn't this gradual process, so it might be like that for you. Don't get disheartened. But the one thing I will say with VE is always ask for consent. If a woman does not want it, she looks like she doesn't want it, don't do it. Don't force her into it. We are not trying to create abused women in this system. We are trying to empower women. So I know when I'm giving a woman a VE, I really like to make her comfortable. One thing I always say, because a lot of women are so self-conscious about what their vaginas look like, I always say to them, Trust me, they all look the same. I've never seen anything that shocked me. Everything, like everyone looks very similar. I really like to talk to her. I let her know, I'm like, I'm gonna tell you when I'm touching. I'm gonna go really slow. I try and get them to do breathing to relax. I say like it will be less painful if you relax. Also, when I'm going into the vagina, I go down rather than up because there are less nerves on the bottom of the vagina than the top. You might see if you've seen a speculum exam, they go down and in, so I try and replicate that with my VEs. There's also no reason to be hard. You can do it gently and you should aim to do it gently. Here, modeled with Play-Doh, I have done my best job of creating a cervix. So to give you visual representation, this is where the baby would sit in the cervix. And as you do a vaginal exam, generally it faces kind of this way, and that would be what you're feeling, the cervix there, just to give visualization, but we'll go more into it later. So what I'm going to explain first is Bishop's score. Bishop's score is a almost universally used score to determine the state of a woman's cervix and the progress, whether to use mechanical ripening, determine the risk of preterm labor, all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to explain that. So there are 5 different elements to Bishop's score. The first element, and the one that I think people focus on that probably isn't the most significant, is dilatation. So obviously modeled on this cervix here, this is a closed cervix, you can't admit a finger. So if you're interested in following along, you can Google up Bishop's score to see the table that they give. But basically the first one is dilatation. Second one is cervical length. So here you have what is a kind of to scale 4 centimeter cervix. It's obviously a little slightly bigger than 4 centimeters, but I think I've just made it like this so that it can easily be demonstrated. And here you would have what would be like a 1 to 2 centimeter cervix. So both these cervix are closed, but they both look a lot different. And this is why you can't just rely on dilatation to determine a woman's progress. As you can see, which woman is more likely to go into labor first? Probably this one, but again, you never know. The third element when assessing a cervix with Bishop's score is consistency. What we say to women, which I think is a fabulous demonstration, is the cervix starts off feeling much like your chin, a little bit soft but otherwise quite firm, and then it goes to feeling like kind of your nostrils, nose, still got some firmness to it but is a lot softer, and then it goes to feeling like your lips. It is very soft and can often be stretchy. So that is how you determine consistency. So describing the position of a cervix is a little bit tricky, but I'm going to do my best for you guys. It's a lot easier when you get into practice. One of the first things you can determine generally is if a cervix is posterior, anterior, midline, that sort of thing. What I will do though is I'll link you a picture below, which is what I've used to try and get it in my head and help explain it to me. So you will be able to find that in the description below. So a cervix that is posterior is quite far back behind the head, so when you enter the vagina it's quite difficult to reach. Sometimes cervix are so posterior that you cannot reach them at all, generally antenatally. So what we recommend though to try and locate the cervix is like you can kind of bring the skin forward of the vagina and pull the cervix forward until you locate the external os. And so that would be if a cervix is posterior. As a woman progresses and as her cervix becomes more ready for labor, the cervix will come into a midline position. So as you go into the vagina, it's a lot easier to feel. It's normally right there. You don't have to search for it. And then even more so, it becomes anterior. As you go into the vagina, you can generally locate it straight away. So like I said, this one is a bit easier to get in practice, but I will link that image below. Hopefully it made some sense. The fifth one is the head station. And station is the baby's head in relation to the pelvic ischial spines. So I don't have a pelvis. I'm going to invest in one probably for more videos. So I can go into detail into it in a different video. Essentially, a baby that is +2 is basically out. You put your fingers and the head is right there. A baby that is -3 is quite far up and is harder to locate. And a station moves down, so obviously the larger the number, the further the baby is down in the birth canal. So when a woman is in labor, we actually use a few more considerations, and they are presenting part. So presenting part, you can often feel the skull sutures on the fetal head, and based off that you can get the position. There's heaps online. I'm a new grad, and a lot of new grads confess that this is something they still struggle with. So it is something to worry about a bit later on. Getting the dilatation and position and that sort of thing is more important first, but that's what we use in labour. Obviously we know that a posterior baby can sometimes be a longer labour, a little bit more difficult, as opposed to an anterior baby. We also use something called effacement, which is very similar to length. So it's essentially how long the cervix is. Here you can see probably on the side, we would say this is ½ centimeter. So by the time a woman gets to 6-7 centimeters, she should be fully effaced. This here, like I said, was about 1.5 centimeters. So a cervix that's fully effaced feels like a really thin, tight band. Another thing we use is how well the head is applied to the cervix. If you can like get your finger behind the cervix and feel the head, and it's not quite, and it's not firmly on the cervix, then it's not as well applied. We know a better applied head generally means better kind of progress and dilatation. Another thing we also assess is membranes, and what they feel like, I would say, is like a water balloon. So if they're bulging, you can kind of push them and really kind of feel them against the fetal head. If the membranes are not intact, you can feel the baby's hair, and if the membranes aren't bulging, it just feels kind of slimy, quite slippery, like maybe like Glad wrap, sliding across Glad wrap, perhaps that's a good analogy. So this is how this cervix can kind of be visualized. As you enter the vagina, you feel around the cervix, and you can kind of separate your fingers this sort of way, and this gives you an idea of the dilatation. So this one I've just made up. If I was guessing it, I would kind of go in, okay, found the cervix, go around the rim. Yep, I can feel this woman is quite established, and then I would place my fingers like this. Obviously you've got to go off response with the woman. If she's in pain, you obviously don't want to be hurting her, and you want to kind of go slowly, base it off the woman. So this, I would probably guess the woman is 6 centimeters dilated. So let's just check this. This is a test of how good a midwife I am. So I have this little ruler thing where I can adjust it to get the dilatation. So I will put it on either side, and that is, just trying to focus it, just over 6 centimeters. So I would state 6 centimeters because no cervix is going to be exactly the centimeter, or very rarely. So another thing that tripped me up a little bit at the start was if a cervix was really stretchy. So for example like this, I would take what it would stretch to, but what you need to take is just, I'd be like, oh, it's 4 centimeters, when really you need to take its the state where it isn't being stretched, so it would be like 3 or like 2 to 3 centimeters. So you might be thinking, how on earth am I going to get this skill down pack? How can I practice? You might have seen there's these beautiful dilatation wheels where you can where it has centimeter by centimeter, or I know I had plastic ones in my hospital where you could kind of compare, but you don't have to spend a dime. Obviously I do want to buy that beautiful wooden dilatation wheel, that is beautiful. But I just want to say you can start at home straight away. So you can use everyday household items, and I think they're even better to use because they're not going to be like an exact centimeter. So it's good to start with them and think, what would this be? As you can see, it has like a little divot where you can spread your fingers and assess. For this, I would say 5 centimeters. So then this is all I could find. So yeah, you can see it's probably actually just slightly bigger than 5 centimeters because this fits in, but you'd probably write 5 centimeters as the dilatation. You would try and do closest to the centimeter. We often say underestimate and not overestimate, and I found this really helpful when I was first learning because it's a common thing among students to overestimate dilatation. So if I think it's a 7, I'll probably say 6. Obviously it's subjective and to the person, but that's just a handy tip and what I follow. So again, like I have a shampoo bottle that's got a bit of a divot, you can do that. Like a nice little Lush pot, you can assess with that. I even found like pepper for like a smaller dilatation too. So you just find things all around your house and start guessing. Like even this peanut butter thing, I'm probably not going to stick my fingers in it now, but maybe I put gloves on and then that would be like a better representation, because you will be wearing sterile gloves during a VE, and guess what that is. So you can start straight away practicing, which I think is super exciting. So one of the biggest tips that helped me a lot and really transformed how I did my VEs was when a midwife told me, just pretend you've done it a million times, just go in like, yep, you know exactly what you're doing. And again, that mentality, yep, I know how to do this, go in, do it. I think when I started just believing, yes, I completely know how to do this, I was getting them a lot easier. I wasn't second guessing myself. Whereas when I first started doing VEs, when I would enter the vagina, I just got really scared that I'm like, oh no, I can't feel the cervix. Kind of just didn't take some deep breaths and actually consider what I was feeling. So slow it down and really just pretend that you are a midwife who's been at it for 25 years. And I think that'll install a little bit of confidence to get it right. Another thing I'll say, which maybe can be considered a little controversial, but I don't think it is, because everyone should know their bodies, is if you're a female midwifery student, practice on yourself. You have a cervix right there to practice with. It's easiest felt when you're standing up. I would recommend you do it in the shower because you can wash your hands and it can be very hygienic. But I know our uni lecturer recommended it to us to just practice on ourselves, so I think you should as well. It's a perfectly normal thing to do to know about your body, so why not use that as a resource as well. So this is all I have today on vaginal exams. I hope that it was of some help to you. I know it was a lot of information, and I know I speak really fast. You can actually slow down the video if you want to. You can put it to like half the speed, and obviously rewatch it, play it back, that sort of thing. If you have any questions, leave it below. If I get enough questions about vaginal exams, I can do a part 2 video, or if there's something specific, like I said, once I get a pelvis, I will do like a position video. But if there's something else you would like me to make, just let me know. I take all your requests on board and I absolutely love making videos for you guys. So thank you so much for watching again. I absolutely love when you guys send me messages. If you are wanting me to respond, I'm probably more likely to respond on my Instagram Messenger, just because I actually get a notification for that, whereas I don't get notifications for when people comment on my YouTube. I actually have to go into the video. So if you're wanting to talk to me, come talk to me. I would love to chat with you. I absolutely love talking with other midwives and student midwives. Birth is my passion. This is my absolute passion. So of course I would love to hear from you. Even if you are like 10, 11 aspiring midwives, that, you know, that really makes my day when I get all those messages. So thank you for you guys who have messaged. You know who you are. And once again, if you guys ever need any help with anything, if you've had a bad shift and you just need someone to talk to, if you're confused about a topic, just message me. I'm 100% here to help. You know, I want to be the person I wish I had during my training. I did have some incredible mentors, and I want to be able to be that for you guys. So thanks again, and I will see you with my next video.